Hey, Bruin fans, want to go behind the scenes with your favorite teams and athletes? How about getting exclusive merch and opportunities to enter sweepstakes like sideline access at the Rose Bowl? Introducing Blue and Gold Society, UCLA Athletics fan membership program created to support Bruin student athletes. Members receive benefits like exclusive gear, videos featuring insider stories, and incredible experiences courtesy of UCLA Athletics. Sign up today at blueandgoldsociety.com.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And, of course, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. A record-shattering day on Wall Street with the Dow taking the spotlight. No record highs for gold and silver. In fact, we saw both gold and silver plunge today. Gold tumbling, biggest daily drop in more than a decade in a stunning rally, which had apparently ended today for the time being. Spot gold dropped as much as 6% and is back to around $4,100 an ounce, biggest one-day drop since 2013. Silver also taking a tumble today, more than 8% lower for silver's biggest daily drop since 2021. All this as trade tensions have eased between Washington and Beijing for the time being. We also saw the dollar firm, and, of course, we saw a big rally in the precious metals over the past year. Investors bought the dip Friday when gold briefly dropped more than 1.5%, and that was big news on Friday. But today, another big pullback. Looks like Wall Street is still bullish on precious metals. Bank of America analysts recently repeated their long gold recommendation, and their analysts are forecasting $6,000 an ounce for gold by the middle of next year. Wall Street's been increasing its price targets on gold lately. Goldman Sachs recently saw gold hitting $4,900 an ounce by the end of next year. And J.P. Morgan analysts also recently said gold could hit $6,000 an ounce by 2029. That's the longest outlook we've seen among the major banks. We did see gold lose nearly $250 an ounce today, back to $4,087 and change, the biggest one-day dollar decline on record, and the biggest percentage drop since June 20th, 2013. Silver falling nearly $4 an ounce, $3.67 an ounce to $47.50 an ounce. That was silver's biggest one-day drop since September of 2011, and the biggest one-day percentage drop since April of 2025 for both metals. It was the lowest settlement since October 10th. All right, we saw the precious metals-related stocks move lower, including many of the mining stocks, including Barrick Mining was down more than 3 to 31 and change. The other names in that space also moved sharply lower. So-called digital gold Bitcoin rebounding today, jumping to retake 111,000 for a while, giving crypto stocks a boost as well. We'll take a closer look at those coming up. We see Bitcoin right now. It's been bouncing around today, right now back to around 109,000. ETH, which popped above 4,000 earlier, back below 4,000 now. Solana is around 189, and Doge at the moment at 19 cents. In the business of show business, we see Warner Brothers Discovery announcing it has launched a review of strategic alternatives following what it said was an unsolicited batch of interest from multiple parties for both the entire company and its Warner Brothers Studio division. Warner Brothers Discovery shares, the ticker symbol on that one is WBD, moving up about 10% on that news. According to a statement, the media giant said the board will evaluate a range of options now, including completing its planned split into two independent companies, Warner Brothers and Discovery Global, or pursuing a sale of all or parts of that business. Six Flags Entertainment stock moving higher today by about 20% on news that NFL star Travis Kelce has joined JANA Partners' activist investor campaign pushing for a change at that park's operator. The ticker symbol on that one is FUN, F-U-N. Six Flags Entertainment shares moving up nearly $4 today at $25.63. Amazon in the spotlight for a number of reasons. Looks like AWS is back online a day after a big outage that impacted many companies and individuals and organizations across the world, knocking out websites and apps for millions of people. We will talk more about that, and now that the dust has settled, I'll discuss the latest outage with STEPAN, cybersecurity expert with wallarm.com. Closer to home, the LA City Council said to give final approval for a metal and wire theft reward program. The idea here is to offer $5,000 rewards for felony grand theft of metal or wire and $1,000 for misdemeanor theft. Meanwhile, plans are on the drawing board to not only close but to tear down the men's central jail in downtown Los Angeles. Yep, you heard me. We'll get an update on that and more with the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member and former LAPD sergeant with something like 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels. The Dow came in for a closing gain today of 218 points. The S&P 500 closed up a fraction. The Nasdaq was down 37 points. Looks like Apple hit a record high today. Oil hovering just below $58 a barrel. Let's bring in the expert here now on your money, the markets, and the economy, and the whole works. Joining us live is Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book Price is Primary: How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. What a day, Jonathan. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon. Great to have you with us. Great to have you with us.
Yes, Frank. It's Frank. Oh, great to be with you, Frank. And absolutely historic. I mean, we've talked about gold on the way up. That's an historic move, and historic on the way down as well. And, you know, it's interesting. It's finally when gold passed $4,000 an ounce, it's almost like it became a national story. You know, you had been talking about it for the better part of a year. Gold stocks outperforming, gold doing very well. So I must say, you know, one swallow does not make a summer, as the saying goes. So although today's carnage was pretty bad in the precious metals, I'm of the mind that I don't think the bull market is over just yet. Now, it might take some time. You know, markets have all the time in the world, so it's very likely that gold could take, 3 months off, 6 months off. It could take 2 years off. But I do think that higher highs are in the offing for no other reason than we were simply just at an all-time high, and a lot of the gold stocks have been doing well as well. So it's another reason why you shouldn't be all or none, and it's why if you're all in gold, you got hurt today. But if you have a truly diversified portfolio, you probably ended up making money. So precious metals, one part of your portfolio, but as today shows, not the only part.
On the air live with Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News contributor and portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund. And the book, once again, Price is Primary: How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. And it was a sizzling run for gold and silver, blowing past its previous record high last seen back in 1979, just about a week or so ago, when it cleared $50 an ounce, and now is back below 50 here. And looks like certainly a breather here. What is your target on where gold and silver ultimately end up here?
Well, I don't think you should have price targets, Frank. What you should have is loss limits. Most people go into a stock and they think, oh, how high do I think it can go? What you should think about is what price below the current price that you're finally going to say, uncle, if you will, and say, okay, get me out. Every large loss always started as a small loss and an investor who just felt he had to be right. So when I enter a trade, whether it's gold or stocks or anything else, I don't set a cap on where I think it can go. I set a cap on how much I'm willing to lose. So I certainly think that it's not improbable to imagine that gold could retest $4,000 an ounce. I mean, it's barely a 2 or 3% move from current prices. So if you're a long-term investor, you've got to be a long-term investor. But it's why, again, as I said, don't make it an all or none decision. When it comes to Bitcoin and gold, for some reason, Frank, people, they tend to take it up like religion, and they have no other room for something like, EWD, for example. That's an ETF that tracks Swedish stocks. They're starting to outperform. So I think there's opportunities out there, but I also think, as my high school hockey coach would say, a good defense is your best offense, especially some of the swings we're seeing now.
Excellent points, and certainly a reminder that gold goes up as well as down. So it had been almost straight up this year, and now this significant pullback. The same for silver, and we'll take a closer look at platinum here as well. The other big news, the Dow, meanwhile, at an all-time high here, up to 46,925, and of course, it's been a record-shattering year for the stock market as well. The Nasdaq pulling back slightly today. The S&P 500 pretty much flatlining. But what's gotten your attention here among the Dow names? Looks like GM has hit a record high here, making a big move on the upside. 3M on its earnings news, also participating in the rally, and and Coca-Cola also moving higher, all part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
And Apple, the only one, Frank, of the so-called Mag 7 really breaking out right now. I think that the market is telling us something. The leadership is changing, and a lot of what used to be considered very unsexy stocks, like General Motors, as you said, it was always all about Tesla or Coca-Cola. These were considered very unsexy stocks for many, many years. So I think that pendulum is shifting, if you will, from growth. This has been a market that has valued growth stocks for the better part of a decade, all the way back towards value. And a lot of what you mentioned are a lot of value names. Interestingly, a lot of utilities are doing very well right now, like Edison International, that's EIX, or Korea Electric Power, that's KEP. I own both of those over at capitals.pig.com. So utilities, again, you think of that as kind of a slow, sleepy sector. They're doing well recently as well. So I think it's a time to broaden your horizon beyond the old favorites. You've been in NVIDIA. Everyone's been in NVIDIA. It's the biggest part of the market. So find those places of the market that are outperforming that people aren't yet talking about.
All right. And based on these market gyrations, and by the way, the yield on the 10-year note is back below 4% here at 3.97%. Of course, with the record run-up in gold and silver, now this pullback and the movement in the bond market, and now the Dow at a record high. Any signals you're getting about the overall economy in all of this?
Well, I've been surprised, Frank, I have to say, by the market, because the market tends to be a great leading indicator of the economy as well. So the fact that rates are coming down and energy prices have been so weak, to me, doesn't necessarily suggest a strong economy to come. So I'm happy to see that the market itself, at least the Dow, is powered a little higher. I think tariffs will continue to be a real issue, Frank. I mean, we've gone from a 3% average tariff to a nearly 20% average tariff. This is the highest since the 1930s. So, there's some real isolation now that companies are having to deal with. We're seeing global supply chains completely upended, and now they're rerouting through Vietnam, Mexico, India. So a trade's happening now, but it's just not happening through a lot of American ports. And of course, American farmers have been dramatically impacted by the tariffs. China no longer a customer, and the government already in the process of bailing them out to the tune of billions of dollars. So I think now is going to be an opportunity more than ever to look for some of those overseas names that haven't gotten a lot of attention in recent years, but are so undervalued and could do quite well if the U.S. continues on an isolationist path.
Very interesting. And you mentioned one, the EWD, for the Swedish stocks. That's a new one. Anything else? Any specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
Sure. I mean, an interesting foreign bank, a Latin American bank, BMA, is at a 20-day high. And, Frank, a lot of times when a stock goes up, people say, I don't like it. I don't want it at 50. I want to see if I can get it at 48 or 49 or 47. You want it at 50. You want it at 50 and 51 and 52. You don't want it cheaper. So the fact that BMA is peaked up lately is of interest. And one more, it's not an international name, but it is an entertainment name. Frank, I know you've probably been to the Sphere in Las Vegas. That's a publicly traded company, SPHR. It's peaked up recently to an all-time high. So I could easily imagine a situation, not unlike the I'm not calling for a Great Depression, but, oftentimes even when the economy slows, people still treat themselves to great experiences and family experiences. So SPHR, it's a speculative name. It's about $1 billion market cap, but I think one to put on your list as an option.
Very interesting. I see it was up a couple of dollars today, participating in the rally here at $65.27 a share. Anything else that's on your list, either to buy or to sell?
Well, one piece of advice is don't be afraid to T-bill and chill. We talked about this over a year ago, Frank, and at a time in which credit card balances continue to climb, not just even the interest rates, but the balances themselves. I would caution our audience, don't feel as if you have to necessarily be fully invested in the marketplace. It's a great opportunity to put yourself ahead of 95% of most Americans by paying down that credit card debt, putting that 6 months worth of living expenses in the bank. I mean, if you have that, you are ready for whatever financial shock comes when it comes. And it's not a comment on President Trump necessarily, Frank, but just a reality of the financial markets that from time to time we get a correction, we get a bear market. And, I'm not a bear, I'm not a by nature, but I do think it's quite likely that we could see a correction, if not in the balance of this year, but in the first quarter of 2025, as the attention moves away from a lot of those Mag 7 stocks. And what I imagine is a period very much like the early 2000s. I mean, people remember that as the market went sideways, but a lot of smaller sectors, real estate, international, did very, very well during that period. So now's the time to be a stock picker and to be cautious given the market's valuation and those all-time highs.
All right, utility stocks have gotten a lot of attention this year. What about some of those names?
Yes, I mentioned utilities. EIX and KEP are my favorites in that group. But, as the old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. And, there's an AI play here, obviously, as well. The power consumption needs of these AI companies, which are still, in many cases, swinging around 10, 15, 20% a day. That's putting the utilities very much in play and boosting those prices. So that's a bull market, Frank. And interestingly, a lot of the utilities aren't trading at the valuations of those small so-called Mag 7. So you could even make a value argument still for the utilities despite a lot of their runs.
All right. And we mentioned analog gold. What about digital gold, Bitcoin, and the cryptos here? I know you follow what's going on there, and it's been kind of a rough week for the crypto space with Bitcoin bouncing around right now back to around 109,000 here.
Well, it's at the lower end of that channel. I mean, the top end of the channel is about 122,000. It traded there in the middle of August. It traded there just in the middle of October. And now we've slid, Frank, all the way down to the bottom of that channel, around $110,000 per coin. So gives me a caution. People always like to buy a falling knife. They like to, when something goes from 110 to 100, they say, "Oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get a bargain." But the secret trick, if you will, is that you'd actually rather buy it higher. So Bitcoin at 109,000, I'd rather buy it at 115 for the way back up to the all-time high. Let it show some strength here. A lot of the Bitcoin stocks have cooled off. So, not a market call, but I'd want to see a little more strength before putting money to work in digital gold.
Very interesting. And all right, anything else that's on your radar screen that we haven't hit on yet? Any other ETFs or anything else you'd like to mention here?
Sure. I mean, what's interestingly outperforming, Frank, are bonds. I mean, interest rates are coming down and way down, and there's some interesting ways to play them. One is Buck, B-U-C-K, very simple ETF. They basically use options to simulate an aggressive bond position. So you're going to earn a little bit more than you were in the bank with a very conservative portfolio with Buck. Same thing with HFSI, that is a strategic income ETF. So, people, I think, have kind of stopped thinking about even fixed income as part of their portfolio. But, if interest rates come down and the economy really slows, if President Trump gets his wish and we get rates cut by 3%, you'll see bond funds outperformed. But more than anything, Frank, I think it's adding a little bit of ballast in people's portfolios. The bull market has made a lot of portfolios way over-concentrated, in my opinion, in just a small handful of stocks. One of them happens to be Apple, but Tesla and NVIDIA and others. So kind of taking some risk off the table, especially given today's price action, I think makes good sense, given the valuations aren't cheap.
All right, and last but not least, oil hovering below 58 a barrel as the ceasefire appears to be holding here at the moment between Israel and Hamas. What about the oil names here?
Well, I actually got stopped out, Frank, of an ETF that I've talked about on your program many times. Oil's weakness is, ironically, should be applauded, but should also be a little bit of concern. Oftentimes, weakness in oil prices is accompanied by weakness in the economy overall. There's no oil names, at least on my radar screen right now. I think it's a time for caution in that space. If you're a long-term investor, be a long-term investor. But, trading or investing is often like bar hopping. You have to kind of go where the action is. And at least for now, action is not in the oil pit.
Jonathan Hoenig, thank you very much for taking the call here on a very big day. Jonathan Hoenig, Fox News contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, author of the book Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, and let's get out to the freeways now on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KBC. Good afternoon. Mixed finish on Wall Street with the Dow hitting a record high today, popping 218 points, selling at a record high close, 46,925. The S&P 500 managed a closing gain of a fraction to 67.35. The NASDAQ pulling back 37 at 22,954. The yield on the 10-year note hovering below 4%. The big news today, gold taking its biggest one-day tumble in more than 10 years, down about $2.50 an ounce, back to $4,087 an ounce, biggest one-day dollar drop on record, and the biggest percentage drop since June 20th, 2013. And silver also moving sharply lower today, down $3.67 an ounce to $47.45. That was silver's biggest one-day drop since September of 2011, and the biggest one-day percentage drop since April of this year. For both metals, it was the lowest settlement value since October 10th. Taking a look at the price of oil, it's hovering just below $58 a barrel. Apple at a new high of 53 cents at $262.77. General Motors also revving up today at a record high of nearly $9 at $66.62 a share. 3M and Coca-Cola also moving higher on better than expected earnings news, as was the case with GM. Taking a look at the cryptos now, we see a Bitcoin bouncing around quite a bit today, right now at around 109,200. Ethereum, ETH at 39.17. Solana at 189, and Doge at the moment at 19 cents. And now the latest news on 790 KBC.
Bruin fans, fall is finally here. That means UCLA football is back in your life. Head out to the Rose Bowl to enjoy America's best tailgating and to make more unforgettable memories with the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava and the Bruins are ready to make an impact this year, and we need you cheering them at the Rose Bowl. Visit UCLABruins.com or call 310-UCLA-WIN to lock in your tickets today. 310-UCLA-WIN.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
Searching for an inside look at the people, stories, and passion that fuel the state of soccer in America?
Who's going to be the key man for the U.S. men's national team?
First and foremost, they need to win.
There's something so fun about being the underdog.
You're playing with house money almost.
But what does this success mean for the future of U.S. soccer?
Ooh, you're getting deep now.
This is where soccer will come to life.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues, 790 KBC. Good afternoon. Technology's great when it works. Another headache for a lot of folks this week with Amazon, saying it's Amazon Web Services, the cloud computer service that powers up many of the Internet's most popular apps and websites. Had that big outage yesterday. Looks like it's fully recovered now, according to Amazon, from a massive outage that disrupted online activity around the world for about 12 hours. Let's bring in the expert now, a cybersecurity expert, STEPAN ILYIN, cybersecurity expert with wallarm.com. STEPAN, thank you very much for taking the call here, and take it from the top. Tell us what just happened.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, you're right. Like, the half of the internet went down yesterday. I mean, maybe not the half, but a good chunk of it. And if some of your listeners try to use different kind of streaming services, or maybe airline booking systems, or maybe, I don't know, order food at McDonald's, you may experience some issues. And the reason for that was what's called Amazon, like Amazon Web Services. This is the internet part of the Amazon as a company. I mean, like, most of you probably buy something online, but Amazon actually have this huge department, which is called like Amazon Web Services, which is an amazing cloud company that help a lot of tech companies to run. The problem is that it went down yesterday. Everything started with one of the data center in Virginia, and it kind of like rippled across the whole internet. And, this is a situation when one simple brick in the building, like, when you take it out, like, the whole thing just falls apart. That was exactly the thing yesterday. And I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of listeners, they may not actually even understand, like, what was the issue, but, like, that was the issue with the AWS yesterday.
Wow. So have they found the fuse box or whatever it was that that gave out yesterday? Can anybody do anything about it? We've seen other situations like this, right? Are we just totally at the mercy of Amazon Web Services here?
It's not an unusual thing. I wouldn't say it's happened like often. Frankly, like Amazon, some other cloud providers like Google, in Asia, and this is the Microsoft company. They're doing a terrific job, actually, to make sure that the whole thing is working. That's why, banking, government, all the social networks, they rely on them to build their infrastructure. Nobody wants to build their data centers by themselves. It's easier to go and rent servers in the cloud. And by the cloud, I'm not saying about something in the sky. It's basically the different kind of servers that are running these huge data centers owned by this company. And it's usually stable. But once in a while, something like this happened. And like this specific one was pretty bad, surprisingly. So like that's why we see this, all sort of messages about like one service is down, like another. I read a hilarious Reddit thread about the company called 8 Sleep. This is a smart mattress that basically cool you down at night or maybe warm you up. Basically, control the temperature within the mattress, and it turned out it's actually very dependent on the Amazon Web Services. a lot of people actually couldn't really change the temperature, and all sorts of issues over there. So like this is the moment when you really understand like how reliant we are on all those like fancy online services.
Did the bed get too hot or too cold?
Yeah, totally.
Do we know if it got too hot or was it too cold? What temperature? Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. I think it's different for everybody, but the thing is that it's typically you would be able to manage and control it over the app or whatever, and you just like wasn't able to do that.
Yep.
The good news, Amazon is fully recovered, so like it's not an issue anymore, and like in all those services that were affected are back online. So good news for all those owners of the mattresses and everybody else, frankly.
Absolutely, yes. And even Amazon stock had a good day participating in the rally today, up more than $5 at 222 and change. But this outage affected everything from Netflix to Starbucks, some of the big telecom companies, and even some electrical grids. Some cities' power grids were affected by all of this. Anything else that caught your attention here, and certainly anything else humorous that caught your attention, since we appreciate a sense of humor here as well?
I mean, what is interesting is that a lot of companies may it only take one incident to make it really, really bad for some of your clientele. Like a lot of companies are now thinking, should they rely only on Amazon, or maybe they should go to this what's called multi-cloud strategy, where they're using different kind of data centers from Amazon and Microsoft and Google. And that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out, how to make sure their services are online, because you don't want to be, it's probably you will survive if your Disney Plus is not working. But if we talk about the, payment systems like Venmo, or if you're just trying to book the air ticket with Delta or United, I think they were affected. This is really serious, and nobody wants to be in a situation where you can't just really do that.
Right. Remember, we had that situation a couple of years ago where people had to go back to the individual computer terminals and reset things. Are we in a situation like that? And what's your advice for individuals and business people who've experienced this? Is there anything that needs to be done at this point with the individual computers?
Probably the good thing is the answer is no. You don't need to do anything. So it's all up to this online services to make sure that they are back online and they're running. There's always some sort of a workaround, probably in the serious situation when you really need to do something, like buy a ticket or something. You can obviously, if the app is not working, you can pick up the phone and just call the airline company and do this thing. The worst situation when their backend system is also not working. So as far as I understand, this situation also affected not only the online services that you or me are trying to use, all your listeners, but also often case some backend systems, because they are running on the very same clouds. So that's unfortunate, but this is what's happening, and frankly, you can't really do anything about that. So we're so dependent in our lives on all these online services. So this is the price we're paying in a way.
Yep. Welcome to the world. Well, anything. Of course, that was yesterday. What about today? From an hour-to-hour basis, I'm sure you're dealing with different cyber threats, cybersecurity issues. What else is top of mind these days, and what's your advice for individuals and businesses who are dealing with constant cybersecurity threats?
I mean, the interesting trend that we are observing right now is everything related to the AI. Like AI is everywhere, and I think like cybersecurity is not any kind of exception from that. I mean, like AI can be used, and by AI I mean artificial intelligence, of course. Like obviously, it can be used to make us more secured. Like you can use like LLMs, like all this large language models to make sure that you can optimize and run the agents to do like the work that can be done by 10 people in a fraction of hours. But the worst thing is that we're observing that the bad guys are also starting to use AI, like and they're using different kind of agents and automation and kind of like smart, intelligence way of what was probably possible for the smaller amount of people, but now like it's getting more commoditized, and like we see that it's easier to run the attacks. It's easier like to run scaled attacks. It's easier to do like all sort of phishing, because like when you're doing phishing, you try to make something that looks very authentic. Like when the bad guys are sending these phishing emails, they're trying to make sure that it looks exactly like the email from your bank, for example. And with all the LLMs, with all the deepfakes, when you can create like a total copy of someone's voice and even image, like it's getting easier and easier to make all sort of attacks like that. So like it's a very different world we live in. Like we'll see more of it, but no need to worry. There's like all sort of companies, including ours, that are working to make sure that it's it's prevented and everybody's secured.
All right, terrific, Stepan. Well, thank you very much for taking the call on all this today. We'll let you get back to your important work there, and thank you very much for your time today. That is Stepan ILYIN, cybersecurity expert with wallarm.com. Thank you very much for joining us live here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC.
Bruin fans, fall is finally here. That means UCLA football is back in your life. Head out to the Rose Bowl to enjoy America's best tailgating and to make more unforgettable memories with the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava and the Bruins are ready to make an impact this year, and we need you cheering them at the Rose Bowl. Visit UCLABruins.com or call 310-UCLA-WIN to lock in your tickets today. 310-UCLA-WIN.
We are the musers on the pod so far. We've discussed people we love.
I didn't tell you guys. Cuban emailed.
What are you wearing?
Well, no, that's not.
Things we love.
Got way into typewriters.
How many typewriters do you own?
Let's not podcast anymore.
Just guesstimate.
It's time to get really down and dirty.
These are great ideas. Start a podcast and then forget to promote it on social media.
So,
what is our podcast about? Yeah, whatever we feel like.
The Musers, the podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues. 790 KABC. Metals in the news today. Precious metals, gold and silver, plunging today in price. Other metals in the news today, including, iron, copper. The LA City Council has just given its approval to a proposed ordinance that would create a metal and wire theft reward program, which the city hopes will curb crimes against public infrastructure, such as copper wire theft, as well as flat-out theft of guardrails and other metals out there. It looks like the City Council in Los Angeles just voted 11-2 to approve the ordinance, which now goes on to Mayor Bass for her consideration. The ordinance aims to offer rewards for information involving theft of city plaques, tombstones, statues, light standards, and copper wire, and the theft of metals linked to the 6th Street Bridge, which has been stripped of its metal and has become dark. The city plans to offer a $5,000 reward for felony grand theft and $1,000 for misdemeanor theft under this ordinance. It remains to be seen if Mayor Bass will sign it into law. Joining us live now, the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former Los Angeles City Council member and former LAPD sergeant with 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels. Dennis ZINE is on the line. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Frank. Pleasure to be with you once again.
What's your reaction to this this ordinance passed by the council and awaiting the mayor's signature and this whole situation out there where the city's being stripped of copper wire and so forth?
Well, as tradition shows, the council is behind the curve. This has been happening for a long period of time. It's happening throughout the city. You mentioned the 6th Street Bridge, where they spent thousands of dollars to bring up to standard. And this is a continuing saga, but the council acts so late in the game. So many neighborhoods don't have the streetlights lit because the wire's been stolen. and then they go to these stores and these shops that purchase that for a premium price. It's been going on for a long time. It's not anything new. But my concern is, why does the council wait so long to do something to provide the safety in the neighborhoods that they need to provide? They're stealing gravestones. They're stealing any kind of copper, any kind of brass, and they take that. And then there's the folks that will purchase that for a premium fee, and they go along their way. Meanwhile, the community suffers more and more. Neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles, east, south, west, north, all neighborhoods have been impacted by this. They call in the street lamps out. No, it's not out. The wire's been stolen. It used to be you call in when the street lamp was burned out, and they come out and replace the lamp. But no. Now the street wires, and it's cost thousands and thousands of dollars to replace that, and the personnel hours to reinstall excessive amount of time. And there's many areas in this city that are going dark at night because of this continuing saga. And finally the council acts, but it's been going on for way, way too long. They're way behind the curve on their enforcement. And the police department obviously doesn't have the resources to go out there and do much with it. So the neighborhoods suffer.
6th Street Bridge, of course, probably the poster child, if you will, for all of this. But pretty much the whole city's been impacted by this, right? And I remember when the police department created, what do they call it? The Heavy Metal Task Force to crack down on metal theft downtown, and then also in the San Fernando Valley as well.
Well, you mentioned the Heavy Metal Task Force. When you think of the number of officers in the Los Angeles Police Department, as of right now, there's 8,692 for all assignments within the city of Los Angeles. So you've got a population that is nearly 4 million and 8692. That's every single person in uniform, plainclothes, helicopters, boats, whatever the case may be. You don't have sufficient personnel to police the city in a proper manner, and that's one of the problems. And it just continually gets worse as the days and months go on.
On the line with the Honorable Dennis Zine, and what about this reward component here? One thing that we don't hear much about, as you do in other cities, encouraging people to go to Crime Stoppers, the rewards and so forth. How's this expected to work here? How your former colleagues structured this reward program, offering $5,000 rewards for felony grand theft and then $1,000 for misdemeanor theft. How's this supposed to work?
Well, somehow the city always seems to find the money. We know that when this budget was being proposed, there was crisis. They were going to lay off people. City employees weren't going to have jobs, and they rang the bell of abandoned ship. Well, lo and behold, I don't think anyone lost their job. Everything worked out fine. People are still working, earning their keep, and policing the city, managing the city, all the different operations. But I warn the people of this region to be aware that you're going to find all these fees going up. You're going to find the parking fees going up. You're going to find the taxes going up. You're going to find fees going up all over the place to try and compensate. But somehow the city again survives, and you've got some council members that are very supportive of law and order. You've got some that aren't supportive of law and order at all, and we can see that in the crime statistics in their particular communities, how they really don't appreciate public safety in portions of the city of Los Angeles. It's a terrible situation when your elected officials don't support law and order.
Right, it looks like the Hollywood Hills also being affected by the wire and metal theft. Now, another big story here, looks like plans are on the drawing board to not only close, but to actually tear down the men's central jail in downtown Los Angeles. This is something that we haven't had a chance to talk to you about. What's your reaction to that news here?
Frank, they've been singing that for a long, long time. This is the same old song. They just keep on singing it. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. It's the same old jail. County Central Jail hasn't changed. People keep complaining about it. The politicians talk about it, but nothing happens. And they just made a settlement with an individual in the LA County, $2 million, a person who was concerned that their job would be taken away. This individual, it's in the news now, received $2 million. They're still employed. The county paid them $2 million. It's incredible how the city operates at all when you think about the tragedies that take place and how the focus is not on what it should be.
And last but not least, if you saw the RAND report, that's the think tank based here in the Los Angeles area, that's a headline, Growing Inaccuracies in Official Homeless Counts Jeopardize LA Homelessness Wins. It looks like there's a pretty big discrepancy here based on what the RAND Corporation found out and what LASA counted. You've been involved in that count. What's your reaction to that news here?
Well, Frank, I've been involved in every single homeless count. Every single time they've had a homeless count, I volunteered. I go out there with the citizens, do the count. It is a joke. Nighttime, you see a tent, you don't know who's in it, you don't know how many in it, you take a guess. A motorhome, well, we'll take a guess. It's all guessing. It's a guessing game. And then you come in with the numbers and they charge millions and millions of dollars. It is so unscientific. The count is a joke. And finally, Rand comes out and says, folks, we verified they're not accurate counts. You don't go out in the daytime when you can see the people. You go out at night after dark when you can't see anything, and they tell you, don't approach, don't talk to, just take an estimate. Well, you know what? How accurate are those estimates? Obviously, the Rand found the study is, these numbers are flawed, totally flawed. But they'll come back and say we need billions and billions of dollars for the homeless. It is such a sales pitch that people buy, and they need to wake up and understand. I support the Rand study. It's accurate. It's telling you the truth. Don't get ripped off by the city of Los Angeles.
See it tonight. Read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. The Honorable Dennis ZINE, former L.A. City Council member, former LAPD Sergeant, 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels. And thank you for your service, Dennis ZINE. Thank you very much for joining us live here. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz on 790 KBC.
Hey, Bruin fans, want to go behind the scenes with your favorite teams and athletes? How about getting exclusive merch and opportunities to enter sweepstakes like sideline access at the Rose Bowl? Introducing Blue and Gold Society, UCLA Athletics fan membership program created to support Bruin student athletes. Members receive benefits like exclusive gear, videos featuring insider stories, and incredible experiences courtesy of UCLA Athletics. Sign up today at blueandgoldsociety.com.